Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Pagel, and I'm the vice presidential candidate from the American Constitutional Goodwill Party, running alongside Sam Howe. I'm speaking to you today in hopes to sway your vote and gain support for our presidential nominee and for our party in general.
The American Constitutional Goodwill Party candidate Sam Howe is ready to fight for you. He is the candidate that understands what is important to your family. He understands because, like you, he is concerned about ensuring a strong future for the next generation, and this must be achieved by investing in education, ensuring a safe community that values diversity, and fosters community-based support systems to keep our kids on the right path. A vote for Sam Howe is a vote for a stronger nation.
Oh no.
The American Constitution.
Okay. So here is our president.
Hello, this is Samuel Howe, and I'm the presidential candidate for the American Constitutional Goodwill Party, alongside my running mate, Lauren Pagel. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for listening to me today. Think about America when casting your vote. It's the nation that is constantly in the pursuit of freedom for all. However, in these trying times, many parties want more government control, more power over, more constraint on your life, and the American people's lives. This is why we need a strong leader that will stand up for the liberties of every American embedded in the Constitution, that go against the increasingly power-hungry parties that want to strip you of your rights, liberties, and freedoms. I am that leader, and I will fight every day in office once elected to make sure your voice is heard loud and clear. I, like the majority of Americans, grew up in the middle class. We were not too rich and not too poor, but we always loved one thing: the freedom we enjoyed in America. It lets us set up our own life without constraint from others. It lets us work our own jobs, handle our own money, make our own decisions with regard to our specific lives and situations. This is what my party stands for: the hard-working American people that run this country on a daily basis. Our party stands for the individual freedoms and liberties of each and every American, while also striving to better our country for everyone through the selfless morals that make up America's ideals. Our protection of Americans' freedom starts in the realm of healthcare. Our party believes that having healthcare is a choice, and since the Constitution does not discuss healthcare at all, it is not the government's job to mandate every American has healthcare. In addition to this, we believe keeping healthcare mostly privatized increases competition among providers and therefore increases the quality. We can see the effects of universal healthcare in many countries around the globe where survival rates for diseases are lower and the wait time for even life-saving surgeries are much longer. Our party furthers the basic protection of American ideals when we stand behind hundreds of millions of Americans by backing the Second Amendment. We stand behind the multitude of statistics that show gun control's ineffectiveness and show that millions of gun owners use guns for protection. My party and I believe we should attack the inner-city culture that includes gangs and illegally owned firearms, which accounts for the majority of gun deaths in the United States. Better education about the dangers of guns in schools and tighter patrolling of those areas is what we believe is the key to flipping the United States around in terms of crimes with firearms. And while we do believe people should be able to protect themselves, they need to prove themselves mentally stable enough to possess one, which is why we support tough background checks and screenings to purchase firearms. And finally, I'd like to touch on this one side of our policy that helps all Americans as one people and not just individuals. Our support and encouragement of legal immigration, as well as assistance of illegals already here due to relaxed border security, betters our nation by providing for Americans who are brought here as kids without knowledge of laws, and by bettering our country through the myriad of benefits that immigrants bring. Our party also wants to provide incentives to energy companies that meet a certain percent threshold of green energy used in order to preserve our Earth for future generations, but also still keep fossil fuels as a reliable alternative. This will not only keep the air clean for our citizens, but also let our kids enjoy the same beautiful Earth we enjoy. So finally, I invite you to join me and Lauren in improving the lives of Americans and every American, and standing up for the ideas and morals that comprise our nation and strive for a better future. Vote for the American Constitutional Goodwill Party today and help Americans be Americans. Thank you.
I also want to take some of your time today to highlight a few other issues on our party's agenda. One of these is a tax bracket. As you can see, our party does support and will implement a tax bracket if elected to office. This is to reduce the burden off of middle and lower class Americans and allows for heavier taxation of the wealthy as they can afford it. This is just an example of a tax plan, but as you can see, tax rates only increase if you make over $414,700, meaning that less than 1% of the population will be impacted by this change. However, our party does want to expand Medicare to ensure that those who really do need government assistance can get it. Thus, we will increase income tax by 2.5% to pay for this expense. This will place an insignificant burden on Americans, meaning that it will not impact their livelihood in general. However, by increasing income tax by just this little bit, our nation will be better off as the people who need our help the most can receive the care that they need. To encourage the use and expansion of green energy, the American Constitutional Goodwill Party is willing to provide tax breaks to corporations that use these green energy forms. However, we still want to maintain a strong fossil fuel industry. Fossil fuels do account for a good percentage of our nation's GDP, so we want to remain strong in that field for where there is a lack of green energy. But we want to facilitate growth of green energy, and we believe that these tax breaks will help us do so. Secondly, the American Constitutional Goodwill Party does support the reinvigoration of nuclear energy, as the program does seek to both identify and develop new, innovative technologies to make this industry more productive and much safer for the environment. Lastly, we feel that it's important to share our stances on foreign policy with you. In the Middle East, we do believe that it's important that the United States maintains a strong military presence here. The fight against terrorism is relatively new and still ongoing, so we feel that it's necessary to keep troops stationed here, as long as their presence is not too overwhelming. In North Korea, we do want to try and stay out of conflict with them. However, due to the constant development of their nuclear programs, we do feel that it is the right and the duty of the United States to respond to their nuclear threats both promptly and appropriately for the safety and security of our nation as well as many others. Russia-wise, we will stick to the NATO agreement and respond appropriately if Russia were to attack us, or any other NATO state if Russia were to attack them in any way, as we do count on these nations for various reasons. This is only to ensure the safety of the American people and our allies, both economical and social. Lastly, we do believe that it's vital to respond to threats made by China to international security. We also want to control and contain their unwarranted advancement in the economic and social world by making more products domestically. Speaking of foreign policy and putting America first, we do believe in the idea of America first, but unfortunately one candidate does not. Take a look at this.
The first job of the president is to put America first, whether that be the people or the nation and values as a whole. But if there is a candidate who didn't put America first, would you vote for them if they put another nation over the one they represent? That's exactly what the Canada Party wants to do. If elected, Connor Roach has promised to change policies and model his America after the nation to the north. But the American Constitutional Goodwill Party won't do this. We believe that the tradition and values put forth by the U.S. Constitution should be upheld all these years later. A vote for Sam Howe is a vote for your rights and freedoms as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, not Canada's.
Lastly, here is my vice presidential speech. I am so sorry for the length. Hello, everyone of AP Government. My name is Lauren Pagel, and I'm the vice presidential candidate from the American Constitutional Goodwill Party alongside Sam Howe. Today, I stand before you urging you to vote for Sam Howe, a president who will fight for both you and your freedoms as guaranteed by the Constitution of our great country. First off, we want to establish the fact that if elected to office, we will protect the right for you to bear arms for your own safety or self-defense purposes. We believe that it's your constitutional right to carry a gun or other weapon as long as you're not a convicted or violent criminal and you pass a background check. Thus, meaning that we want to place more restrictions on being able to buy a gun in hopes to keep it out of the hands of violent criminals or people that shouldn't have a gun in the first place. In doing so, we hope that we are able to protect this right for both you and for future generations to come. Second off, we believe that education is vital to the future success of our nation. We truly believe in the fact that our children are our future, and we should make a point to secure that future right now. If elected, we will work to increase the federal education budget. We particularly want to allocate these funds to these inner city public schools that need our help the most. We believe that by increasing the budget, we are setting up our children for future success, whether that be in a college, trade school, or in a military setting. We believe that by making this a wise investment now, we are setting up our nation for future success for generations to come. Next off, we do support immigration to the United States. Our nation is truly a nation that has been built upon immigrants, starting from hundreds of years ago. As a matter of fact, many of our families were immigrants coming to the United States. We want to continue that tradition, and we want people to not be scared to immigrate to the United States. However, we do think that there's a fine line between legal and illegal immigration. If elected to office, we will do everything in our power to make this process easier and more accessible to these families who need our help the most, as the United States is the land of opportunity, and we always want it to be. Speaking of a land of opportunity, the United States is a great place for workers to come, and we want to reward these workers. If elected to office, we want to increase domestic production and domestic trade. We believe that the United States is more than capable in producing majority of its goods. That said, we do also support international trade, but we want to limit this as far as we can. We want to place tariffs on incoming goods to kind of deter everyone and try and get them to produce things in the United States. This will increase jobs and revenue within our country, thus stimulating our economy. What better way to reward these great American workers with more job stability and security by keeping their companies rooted in the United States? Next off, we do not support the principle of universal health care. Healthcare is a privilege. It is not a right that has been guaranteed by our Constitution. An individual should have the right to purchase or work for their health care. That said, we do support the idea of providing Medicaid and Medicare to those who need it, particularly Medicare. Medicare is something that works to support our retired people and people with disabilities who otherwise cannot work, and providing them with adequate health care. We believe we simply cannot provide universal health care for everyone. It's completely unrealistic. So we want to work to provide it for those who need it the most, and instead spend that money, that wasted money, for people who could go get health care elsewhere. Lastly, because we are literally in the middle of a global pandemic, we feel that it's best to address COVID. And if elected, we promise to do so. If elected, we want to increase testing. We want people to be able to easily get tests and get their results within a matter of a couple hours. If we want to stop this pandemic, the first is to identify where it is and where it's most prevalent. If elected, we will also work with vaccine developers to stimulate this production and distribution of the vaccine to make sure it's both efficient and effective, and we will use our powers to do that. As a party, we will never support the idea of a federal mask mandate. We believe that it is up to the states to delegate this power. We believe that each state is in a completely different situation in terms of the pandemic. Some are doing much better off than others, and we believe that it's the power of each and every state to make the decision about a mask or a shutdown. But as a government, we will support the idea of mask wearing, as it's both the easiest and most effective way to slow the spread of the coronavirus. I hope that by standing in front of you today, I've given you some insight into what we believe as the American Constitutional Goodwill Party, and I hope that you will consider voting for Sam Howe. Sam Howe is truly the only candidate who will fight for you and your freedoms as guaranteed by the Constitution, and we will do everything in our power to protect your freedoms as our founding fathers intended. If elected, you will truly see that we are letting Americans be Americans.
As our time today comes to a close, I want to encourage you one last time to vote for the American Constitutional Goodwill Party. A vote for Sam Howe is a vote for your freedoms as outlined in the Constitution and for the future of our nation. A vote for Sam Howe is a vote for the American Constitutional Goodwill Party, a party that truly lets Americans be Americans.